And Facebook, as I said, was 34 million and growing. And if you look at it, the major centers are where there are a lot of IT and media activity, where you have the new media, with Delhi, Gurgaon, Bombay, those two biggest centers, and then Bangalore, obviously, and others. But the tier 2 and tier 3 towns are coming forward as well, especially because of mobile technology, So we're bypassing the 3G issues and all of helping that create quick media. So people can watch Anna Hazare video very quickly anywhere in the country now, if it's online. Now, I want to look at a couple of campaigns in India. So when the India Against Corruption movement started a year and a half ago, actively, there was a website launched at that time that just asked people to participate in polls and respond and talk about things. But as it grew up to the big movement in the August Revolution, I think that what happened was this massive acceleration occurred on online activity. And if you look at the number, American organizations would die for these kind of numbers. We had 556,000 likes on Facebook. We had 195,000 Twitter followers. We had 24 crore, 2.4 million. Is it 24 million? 24 million. 24 million mobile messages. Those are numbers that are just staggering when you think about it. 1,000 people RSVP'd to come to the August rally. So I would imagine that at worst, 20 to 30% of the people that showed up at Ramlila grounds were because of Facebook and Twitter. So that's huge response. So from a marketing point of view, this to me sees opportunity. That means that we can actually take this young audience in India and spread messages very quickly, whether it's about education or brand relationships. The other one that I want to show you is Choudhury, which is a great campaign that was run 3 years ago, pre the elections, about awakening young middle-class people to come and vote, to register to vote. It was a big issue in India because young people were kind of disconnected from politics. It was a dirty game, they don't want to touch it, especially young, educated Indians. And Choudhury, which was co-branded by Tata Sky, so it was a non-profit organization and a corporation working together. Now here's where the opportunity comes for us marketers. We're able to come together and create a TV ad campaign, an online sign-up forum where you could sign up to vote and get your voter registration done, and Facebook page and Twitter. And they use all of this to create, the actual numbers were 650,000 people registered to vote as a result of the Choudhury campaign. Now that's huge. For a youth movement like that, to see that. And now they're challenging corruption, they're trying to do different things, and it's become an established forum for waking up and doing something in your country. So this is just a couple of examples. Here are some other good examples. I'll try and get you a printout of this. So with non-profits who are doing things in India, not non-profits. In India, when we say the word NGO or non-profit, it has a connotation of grassroots activity and working on the ground to educate children or healthcare and so on. I'm talking about cause-driven organizations that want to empower young people to become better citizens or education, and things like that. There are a lot of them, and I've got a list of a few hundred of them that we'll be looking at. But you'll be able to see this, for example, one of the most popular ones we're seeing, apart from the three I just talked about, including Tare Zameen Par, by the way, got 581,000 Facebook likes, and it led to a bunch of, even Kapil Sibal has said that the HRD ministry and Makan have said that Tare Zameen Par issues have been raised for the education issues, and they're trying to run bills on that right now. So their impact is there, and we can't underestimate the impact of social media, cause marketing in social media. So, what's the opportunity, right? So the opportunity, as far as I can see, for a marketer is, and I'll just give you a little personal example here. We're doing a new film this year on the Dalai Lama's vision of happiness, where one can train their mind for happiness. And we're using scientists in America and India to look at what the neuroscience of that is. what happens to the brain when you actually meditate, what happens when you train. And there are centers now across America and now in other parts of the world where people are training and in mindfulness and without religion to use meditation to be happy. And we're making a film on that, and it's a 3-part series for PBS in the US, and we're going to do a massive online campaign. And so keep tuned, and you'll be able to see what we're trying to do. And what we want to do is to build a participant media type company out of India that does Indian stories out of India. That's our plan right now for this year. So what is the opportunity for online marketing professionals? The opportunities are that you're able to bring individuals and, bring individuals, supporters, brands, companies, and funders together with causes, right? So one of the things you can do is go out there and find a cause or look for companies that are doing causes and see how you can bring online marketing to help them, right? And the second one is to raise money for campaigns, which is the biggest issue for most causes, is that they're perpetually broke. They have never have any money. So how can marketing help them raise money using online tools, using click-throughs, using, Pesa Pay or whatever different ways of funding now in India you can do, deposit into bank accounts on different online things. There's so many tools now, right, helping Indian NGOs and non-profits develop that. The other is to create awareness, then use films and video and media and web and word of mouth to achieve these results, and then ensure that the activism has impact. So if you're going to have an event, you have to get it known. You have to get the media involved in some way. And making sure that you have a massive amount of people tweeting on your behalf or sharing on your behalf will impact the media. And the Indian media is eternally watching the Twitter-scape to see what's happening. And not so much Facebook, more on Twitter, but they're always watching what's going on. So we can exploit that very well, right? The beauty is now you can measure this also very carefully. We were talking about, the link graph, but now we're into the like graph. Do I like it or not? And from like, we'll probably evolve to even deeper emotion management. So learning to measure emotional response, conversation response is going to be critical. So you have to learn these tools, and I'll show you some of the names of the tools you can go and learn. And no campaign can last forever. Now you talk to anybody about Nazare and everybody's kind of tired. They don't want to come out in March anymore. Nobody wants to go there anymore. But there are things you can do online to keep them active during lull times. When things are slow, you can still sign petitions. You can do online activation. You can do many things online. And finally, if you want to switch or adapt this for agency model or become an online marketer that focuses on this, here are some of the things you can do, right? First of all, study causes in India, right? There are enough causes in India, believe me, right? And you just have to choose carefully which ones you want to play in. Now, there are a lot of people hiring full or part-time online marketing professionals right now, right? I get requests all the time from NGOs, including Cry and Save the Child and others, to anybody for online marketing, please, all the time, right? And they pay decent salaries or consulting rates, so think about that. One is you might, if you haven't ever worked in this space before, but you have some online marketing experience, is offer your services for a couple of campaigns pro bono, meaning free, right? Because it gets you known. I did that in the States with American India Foundation and a bunch of people. I produced videos for them. I did online campaigns, and it really gets you into the community, gets you known in education or in governance or in corruption or one of those areas. You should get yourself known, right? Study brands and companies and understand their non-profit strategies. That means that every single brand out there, from Coca-Cola to Tata Tea, has a non-profit position. They have a budget that they're going to allocate to non-profit activity, right? You want that budget for your brand or your cause, right? How do you get it, right? Do I have time? Quick examples? Yeah. In the US, McDonald's, there was a non-profit organization that challenged McDonald's, that they wanted to challenge the use of paper boxes in storing McDonald's burgers, right? So they went to McDonald's and they said, we can either do a media campaign against you and show you how rotten you are and what you're doing to the environment, or you can change your policies and work with us to help adapt new policies, right? What McDonald's chose the enlightened way. So you can actually blackmail brands into working for you. You know, that's the secret to one of the non-profit areas, okay? That's how I make a lot of my living. So study how things are done in the US and elsewhere, because they are more evolved in the use of these technologies. So read things like Mashable, read things all the time, you know, read SEO more, you know, figure out these things, learn about this stuff, right? Then you need to know some filmmakers, okay? You know, if you don't know filmmakers, go meet some filmmakers. You know, there are enough wonderful filmmakers in India that can help you, so that when you have your call, you can pull them up and say, look, come and film this, or do a little project for us, you know. Do a 10-minute short. Because short films are going to be critical in this next future, you know, YouTube and things like that. Then you want to live and breathe both Facebook and G+ now. So Google+, definitely. You need to be in both. I agree with you completely. If you're not in both, you're dead. So learn all about Facebook. Launch multiple pages. See what happens. Track them, you know, use analytics. Then learn to use analytics also, right? Also understand iOS and Android, because those are going to be critical. Yeah, both Apple and, you know, iPad, iPhone, Android phones, right, devices. New social platforms. Every day new social platforms are being launched. Pinterest, you know, you name it, you know, Foursquare. These are just emerging. You need to know them, because one of them might emerge as a big player soon. So you need to track them all the time, right? YouTube, must know YouTube, right? And then also learn to use social monitoring tools. This is very important. If you're not doing it right now, learn about monitoring, right? Technorati, Radian6, you know, Tracker, Twitter Center, Google Alert. Learn how to monitor. You know, learn how to monitor your posts, your websites, your pages. See how you can track them, and you can track every single one of them, by the way, right? And never stop learning. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, I don't mind. I'll take questions. Just here are my details, right? So you can always contact me, and I'll take any questions. You have a mic going around? Anybody have a question? I guess I'd give a very good talk. Sorry? The most recent project, we launched a series of projects for Coca-Cola in India, where we launched 30 touchscreen kiosk social networks around the city in Delhi. And we launched a web campaign with that and a Facebook campaign with that for the IPL Cricket League that Coke was sponsoring here. Last year we did a bunch of things for a group called Alchemist Group. They do restaurants and all food processing. We did a whole bunch of food processing. That was last year. And this year we're doing documentary films. And we've done a couple of films last year that were on Indian belief structures with a gentleman called Dr. Karan Singh. We did a film with him last year that's now going to all the universities around India called I Believe, about what do you believe as a young person in India. You know, and we're doing that.
Hi Raja.
Hello.
I have a question. We heard of Google Buzz. We heard about Google Buzz.
Sure.
And I want to know why it happened, how. Can you like?
One thing you always find about Google, and I'll keep the answer short, is that they throw a lot of products into experimentation, you know, to see what happens. I mean, Orkut is near death, is almost dead, right? I mean, practically, I don't think anybody is using Orkut anymore, right? And the same thing happened with Google Buzz, with even things like AdSense. They have, you know, a lifespan issue coming up with them, you know. So I think what you'll find with Google, and especially large brands like Google, is that they will continuously experiment. That there are other PR and online distribution platforms like Zeitgeist and other things that are doing better, right? So Google, that's probably why it just did not was not sticky enough to take.
My take on this thing is that Google killed Buzz knowingly to give a boost to Twitter. How about that?
Well, if they did that intentionally, then they outpriced Twitter for themselves. So I doubt it. I doubt it.
Okay.
I think it just did not stick.
Okay.
Just not enough conversion to people using it. Yeah, that is the main reason. Google are very pragmatic when it comes to those things. They'll shelve it right away. Okay, anything else?
I have a question.
Okay.
Hi.
Where?
It would be, I'm here.
Oh.
So did you that G plus results are starting to, pull up in the search pages. So where does Facebook stand, say, a year from here? What's the future? I mean, does that mean that Facebook would be pulled out, completely? Or where do we see it going?
See, in the world of the teenager and the soccer mom and the people that I want to talk to, not the tech savvy SEO marketers, right? Facebook is still rules right now, right? It's huge. There's a vast population worldwide. It's available on all mobile devices, and Google Plus is coming, but it's not seen as that friendly yet. And people have lived their entire lives on Facebook at the moment. For the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen, families live their entire life on Facebook. Things like Tumblr came, didn't catch on. Things like, it comes and goes. So I think that Facebook is not going anywhere, but Google Plus will be a parallel. And you're going to have, and it's good because it keeps the two vibrant and going, So maybe they'll split the world between them about 500 million each, and we'll see what happens. But I doubt Facebook is going anywhere for the next 3 to 5 years. Right? After that, you should be on both. Within that, you should be on both.
Thanks.
This was the case with the Orkut as well. In the past, Orkut was the face for everybody to chat, to go around with, but it's no more.
Actually, Orkut was only popular in India and Brazil. Right? The problem with Orkut was that it didn't catch on in the US. Right? So when it didn't have commercialization in the US, it just did not catch on. In India, it was huge. India had 14 million Orkut users, right? And they're still there, but people don't use it anymore. But because Google did not invest in Orkut or did not put their efforts on Orkut, and they were developing G Plus on the side, I think Orkut just got killed. Orkut was it's like Flickr is going to die eventually like that. It'll be absorbed into one of these large networks.
Yeah. Your last point about Orkut, actually, that was popular in India. I think the networks that you talked about, Google Plus and Facebook, these are the dominant players worldwide. But this is like Indian sites marketing to Indian audience. So there's a lot of networks that probably we people in the metros don't use, but in tier 2, tier 3 cities they're using in.com, iVivo, Big Adda. They're using all these networks, and Orkut also. Orkut is still a pretty big player in India.
So, yes. A lot of football teams have their sites there, a lot of cricket teams have their pages on Orkut.
Exactly. So Orkut and
colleges and universities, a lot of Orkut pages.
Absolutely. So if you're going to tier 2, tier 3 towns, these are big social networks. So how do you? You said that we should be on Facebook and Google Plus, whereas I think if you're really marketing to India, Google Plus and Twitter are still less relevant than some of these other local social networks.
I'm talking 2 to 3 years out there. Okay. Right now, Orkut is declining.
Sure.
Right? So people will shift to Facebook. Even those cricket teams and tier 2, tier 3 people are now getting smartphones with Facebook on it. Right? They're not, it's happening. Android is coming with G Plus on it. Right? It's a matter of time. Orkut won't ever die. Right? It'll just be a small unit of Google. Exactly. Like
I'm talking about the Indian social networks like in.com, iVivo, Big
iVivo is not a social network anymore. It's a gaming network now. Sure. All the Indian networks that have tried have not actually been able to get the traffic. The numbers are not there. 1.5 million. While you're talking, 35, 40 million for Facebook. So I think there's always room for small networks, and there are hundreds of small networks. I don't underestimate. In America alone, there are hundreds. And Tumblr being one that's emerging for teenagers, right? You have Posteros, you have this, you have that. You have so many networks, right? Thing is dying. Those things will come and go, right? But the venture capital, the money, the marketplace will follow these. Is drawn to bigger networks automatically, naturally.
Hi, I just wanted to know your thoughts. Do you think there is a threshold to a person's use of social media? There are like hundreds and thousands of social media on different topics, and how many of those can I be a part of? I am already, you know, kind of tired
Overwhelmed.
Yes. On LinkedIn, I have 1,000 plus connections, and every week I get 100 more new invitations. I don't want to do that. It just uses the whole concept of me being on that social media platform.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest risks we face now is information overload. There's no doubt about that. There was a very nice article, if you can read it, I highly recommend you read it, by an author called Pico Iyer. If you've not heard of it, write it down, Pico Iyer. He wrote an article a few days back that was in the New York Times and then spread syndicated all over the world. Very good article about how more and more senior tech executives are detaching themselves for long periods of time from any connection to anything for 4 hours a day, for 2 hours a week or 4 hours a week, and going to quiet places and shutting off everything because of the overload. I think that what Google is trying to do, and Facebook are also trying to do, is to own your time, right? So they want to be everything to you, right? In your social media life, your photos, your family, they want to be the one-stop shop for you, right? And that's why they're attractive also, because you don't want to manage 10 social networks. Right. Who does? Nobody does, right? So I think that with social networking platforms, scale obviously is a more attractive. The larger the scale, the more mashable technology is in there, the more you're drawn towards it. That's why Google is going to do so well. Because they've got apps, they've got business, they've got social networks, they've got everything all on your phone, right there. Facebook is less so. Facebook is not business friendly. Now you have to have LinkedIn for that, But LinkedIn is also becoming more and more social. Twitter has announced that they're launching a complete social platform. So you have a timeline, you have walls, you have everything. So Twitter is now taking on, So I think that I would hone it down to 2 or 3 that are very important for your life and just focus on them. Don't try and do too much. But keep abreast of what's going on, so you know. Right.
What is your opinion about Apna Circle, and LinkedIn as of now has no competition? So, what is your opinion about this professional networking?
No, Indian professional social networks are still very young. No clear. LinkedIn is still the clear winner. LinkedIn is the biggest one that's going to happen. I mean, there are others, like Plaxio or whatever, things like Plaxo and things like that. But nothing touches LinkedIn for business networking. So until Facebook or Google Plus decide to do business networking, I still count my bets on LinkedIn. Okay. Thank you very much.
There are any more questions? I will ask Raja Choudhury on Twitter using the hashtag OMCAR 2012.